Hi everybody, this is Joel Isaiah and I'm back with my third video for the Stockholm Major Tournament. And today what I'll be doing for you is to share an updated predictions for the winners of the Stockholm Major. This is because there were many changes that have happened over the course of the major, including teams that surprisingly did really well and some teams that did disappointed. And I got to say that even though there are only 14 teams, in fact only 13 teams at this major, all the teams all look really strong and really amazing, and many of them are very close to each other in terms of their power levels, and so there are many teams who have the potential to make it into the top 3 or into even the first place. So in this video, what I'm sharing with you is to give you an overview of where I think each of the remaining teams stands in their strength and who I think will win the whole grand finals, the estimated scores, and with this information it will be helpful for you for putting your fantasy rosters or even betting if you're from another country and you're allowed to bet. I'm from Singapore, so I cannot bet, but I just love analyzing the teams and sharing this information with you guys, so I hope that you find this information in the video helpful. So without further ado, let's dive into the predictions, and I will discuss the prediction records of the remaining teams now. So this is my prediction for the playoffs from the matches coming up today until the grand final. And so the teams that are remaining include Tundra, Thunder Awaken, TSM, Gaming Gladiators, Beast Coast, Bad Boom, OG, T1, and Fnatic. And that is 9 teams remaining. At the very least, these teams, almost all the remaining teams will get some points for the major. But let's go from the top to the bottom and then from the left to the right to look at my predictions for each match. I would think that as an overview for my predictions, I think that Tundra looks the strongest by far among everybody, and there are solid reasons why they are looking so strong. And as such, I think that they will make it through the upper bracket into the grand finals. As for who will make the lower bracket one to the grand finals, this may be harder to decide, but I actually chose OG even though they are playing with a stand-in who is Seb. And I think that even though Tundra is looking really strong, OG can be a team, if they make it to the grand finals, to make it a really exciting 5-game series. But I do think that Tundra will still take the championship this time round. Before I explain why these are my predictions further, I have to explain to you where I think each of these 9 teams currently stand. To do that, I have a matrix to share with you. So I rated the team's power level based on 4 things: the team's current flow and energy. Are they in the zone? Do they feel very energetic and motivated to win? Secondly, I rate them based on their meta and draft. Are they currently playing heroes that are extremely strong based on the meta? Are they very good at drafting, such that usually at the end of the drafting phase, you see their lineup and you can probably tell that they already will win the game? Third, I look at the team's laning and execution. Regardless of what the draft is or how energetic the team is, in the game itself, is a team that usually wins their lane? Or even if they don't win their lane, throughout the game, are they able to execute their gameplays well, to avoid ganks, to avoid smoke, or to take proper team fights? Last of all, I look at the team's consistency. This is the least important factor out of the 3, but it still matters. What do I mean by consistency? Consistency is a combination of the other 3 factors. Is a team always motivated and energetic? Is a team always producing a good draft strategy? Or they sometimes come out with a weird draft that doesn't work? Is a team always good at winning lanes and executing fights? Or do they sometimes get sloppy? That is consistency. It is slightly less valuable than the first three, but it's nonetheless very important to evaluate if the team will make it far. Now, let's take a look at Tundra. For Tundra, I put that their current flow and energy is 9. They do have some level of confidence for doing well in this tournament, and so they are doing well. All their players are older players, and some of them are even new at the major. So I wouldn't say that this is the most motivated and energetic team, but they have the confidence. So I'll put it at 9 upon 10 for their flow and energy. As for their meta and draft, Tundra has a lot of drafting strategies. Yes, they have signature heroes like Visage and Quarter, but even if teams ban those heroes, they still can come up with other amazing picks and combinations to overwhelm the enemy team. They have not really been figured out, so they are like the best team at drafting and meta. So for the laning and execution, they do it well as well. For example, Skeeter, their carry, can pick Chaos Knight every game. Even if the Chaos Knight is somewhat countered, he will still get the farm that he needs and perform quite well. And 33 just usually wins his lane and wins the game. Last of all, as a result of Tundra being great at the laning and at the drafting, and they consistently do that, I would say that they are the most consistent team. As such, out of 40, they have 38.5, which is the highest out of everybody here. Now, let me quickly run through the rest, and you can watch the part that you find most relevant. So for Thunder Awaken, I would say that they are among the top teams as well. Their flow and energy I'm not certain of it. I think that they are quite motivated, being the top seed in South America and wanting to prove that they are doing well. So they will at least have a 9 for the motivation and energy. As for their meta and draft, I noticed that they are able to play many different kinds of draft, and they usually are able to win with those drafts. As their draft is so flexible, they have a good meta draft. In terms of laning and execution, they are pretty good at that. They usually can win their lanes, and even at games that they are losing, they can pull surprise comeback games like dragging multiple man Wraith King through a double lasso into the fountain, making him lose 3 lives in the fountain, and then turning the game around because of that. As such, out of all the teams here, they might be the best at in-game plays, laning and execution. As for consistency, I wouldn't say that they are always performing the exact same at every single game, so I give it a 9. They are at 37.5, which is the third highest among all the teams here. Now looking at TSM. TSM had a more rocky start initially, but they were by no means losing many games even in the group stage, despite playing with their stand-in Queen. Now that the Saberlight is back and the team is at full force, they're looking terrifying. They look really motivated. Moonbender always looks so hyped and energetic, cheering on his team. Saberlight is so excited that he high-fives himself. The team is just in pretty good spirit. And the TSM has pretty solid draftings. They usually draft drafts that the panel look at it and they think, oh boy, they are going to win the game. So they are pretty good at that. And in terms of execution and plays, they are also one of the best teams at executing and playing. Even in TI10, they made a deeper run than many people expected, and that was largely because they were so good at coming back into the game and taking team fights. As for consistency, I give it a 9 instead of like higher because I do think that sometimes they may be caught out of position, perhaps due to moments of complacency. Even then, they are 38, which is the second highest out of everybody. Now, for Gaming Gladiators, without going through each point, now I will just focus on the main things. I don't think that Gaming Gladiator is that motivated, and their drafts can be figured out. For example, Team Liquid said that they figure out Gaming Gladiators' draft and strategy, and Liquid has consistently beat Gaming Gladiators. But what gaming gladiators tend to do well, I would say, is that along with a stable draft, they tend to have a stable execution to get the things that they want to do done on the map, like helping their mid win the lane. And in terms of consistency, as a result of pretty stable draft strategy and a stable execution, they are quite consistent. For Beast Coast, I would say that the main thing that they have going for them is execution. The South America teams are pretty damn good at laning and executing and taking team fights even at a disadvantage and turning it around. So they always have a chance to surprisingly win games. Now for Bad Boom. Bad Boom is a pretty motivated team. They come in with motivation, perhaps being their first major, and even wanting to win a match because hey, they wanted their player, I can't remember which player, one of their players' birthday was yesterday, and then they wanted to win the game for them, and they tried really hard. They also go all in games, pulling backdoor strategies, turning games around, and so I think that they are a very motivated and energetic team. They are also a team that has a high level of execution, being able to identify the right objective to take, the right way to split push, the right way to take fights. So they are among the best contenders for the major. Now for OG, out of all the teams here, I would argue that OG and TSMs have the greatest levels of motivation and energy. I tell you, man, the Seb buff is real. Every interview OG have, they're talking about how Seb being there is such a great presence to help them to not be discouraged, but to always be back in the game and to reset. And the team being young players and cheerful after they win games, they really want to go deep and they really want to continue to enjoy winning. They are also great at the meta and drafting. They have a pretty diverse pool. Putting Seb aside, they do have many heroes that they can pick from, especially for Uragi, where he can play almost any hero as a carry. And for the laning execution, they do this very well actually. They are very good at avoiding smokes. They are very good at winning 2 out of 3 lanes, and you can see sometimes like Ama is the top net worth, otherwise it would be Uragi or BCM. And they are very good at taking the right angles in team fights, landing double shackles, landing black holes and all. And the only thing that does not top notch is the consistency. On group stage day 2, they got 0-4, and they themselves said that they did not feel like they were playing that well and they were that on form. So there could be the possibility that they just do not feel as on form on a certain game. Even then, OG is OG. They are a team that is highly motivated, they don't give up, and so they could make a deep run all the way to the grand finals even. For T1, I would say the main thing that they have going for them is that they have very unique and diverse draftings. They would even give their carry Gabi Wind Ranger or like a Bat Rider for the pause one. Whatever they see to be a good way to win the draft and win the game, they do it. And so the drafting and meta that they have may help them to take games. So for Fnatic, I think Fnatic is also one of the more motivated teams. They have very experienced players who have been playing together, and they have been to majors, and I think they do want to play and go far and play on the main stage with the crowd. And for the other thing that they are doing well is their laning and execution. Raven is a carry that usually will be able to have top farm. Usually can farm really well even in the bad lane. And there are other players like Amel and DJ tends to perform well also, like in the mid lane or in taking gans and saving people. So Fnatic does have quite a high execution and they have motivation. So if you see all this information that I presented so far, Tundra is number 1 because they are almost the best at everything. This is followed by TSM and OG, where you can see that both TSM and OG have scored most high motivation and next execution. They are a team that can fight against any team, even Tundra, and still have the possibility of winning. The last one would be Thunder Awaken, and that's because their drafting and their execution is so good. So we shouldn't be surprised if Thunder Awaken even somehow win the whole major and make South America proud. So now, to wrap up this video, and in the next 2 minutes, I think that Tundra will beat Thunder Awaken simply because they are so dominating, and Thunder Awaken could also surprisingly turn this around, but I think that Thunder Awaken is not the most consistent team, and so Tundra being the more consistent team will more likely be the one that even storm them possibly. TSM against Gaming Gladiator, as I mentioned, Gaming Gladiator's strategies and drafts have been more and more figured out, such as by Team Liquid. So I think that TSM might be able to figure them out to have a better draft, and TSM is very good at executing. 2-0 will not be surprising. In spite of that, I think that Tundra is still a stronger team over TSM, and so in the upper bracket finals, Tundra will 2-1 TSM. Going to the lower bracket, between T1 and Fnatic, I would say that what T1 has is drafting, but Fnatic is quite motivated and they are good at execution, and they are the number one in Southeast Asia. So I think that they will be the ones that beat T1. This is a wrong score that I put here. So I think Fnatic will move on. And between OG and Fnatic, it can be a close game, but I think between these two teams, OG is the one that's more consistent than Fnatic. They may not suddenly draft a very bad draft, and OG is also a more disciplined team than Fnatic in terms of map movements and all. So I think that OG will be the one that emerge. Between Beast Coast and Bad Boom, I think that Beast Coast have diverse drafting, but Bad Boom similarly. Bad Boom has motivation and is very good at laning and execution. So I think Bad Boom has the edge over Beast Coast. Between Bad Boom and Gaming Gladiators as well, I think that Bad Boom is a stronger team than Gaming Gladiators, but this is a close one. I'm not sure who will truly be the one that emerged from this. Between Thunder Awaken and OG, this is yet another tough call. I rank both teams very similar in terms of their scores, but I would say that even though the two teams are very close, I think that OG has a greater motivation, and they are one of those teams that don't give up easily. And as both teams are at a similar skill level, I think what matters at the end of the day is just being consistent in game and being motivated not to give up to the end. And so even though it will be a close series, I think OG will be the one that barely beats Thunder Awaken. Between OG and Bad Boom, I think that this series will favor OG more than even the OG Thunder Awaken series. And I do think that OG can beat Bad Boom, where Bad Boom drafting isn't that amazing. They tend to pick heroes like Visage and Nature's Prophet for their carry, and OG being a team that often analyzes the draft of their enemy team, they could undermine Bad Boom's ability to play that well by undermining their drafting. Now for the lower bracket final between OG and TSM, I think that this will be very close given how TSM 2-0 OG, and I think that OG will definitely be motivated to face TSM again. I would say that as I rated both of these teams at the same score, it could go either way. But based on previous TIs and all, we know that OG is a team that doesn't give up and crumble easily, but that could be applied to TSM as well. So I'm just going to be honest here. I think this is purely my bias. I have no idea which of these two teams will win, and that's why I chose OG. And I think that between OG and Tundra, as I mentioned, both OG and TSM are tenacious and motivated and very good at laning and execution. As such, it will be a very close best of 5 series that can go to 5 games, and I think that at the end of the day, Tundra as Seth mentioned, is 10 steps ahead of everybody else, and so it will take many miracles in order for OG to beat Tundra, but I think it's still close, and so Tundra will win the major with 3-2 beating OG. I hope that this video is helpful to you, and by having this rough prediction that should be fairly accurate based on how I rate the team's power level, I hope that this can help you, perhaps be it in betting or fantasy roster, and let's wait and see if these results are truly what will be the case for the rest of the major. With that, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and leave your comments on what you think about the predictions. Bye bye.